Okay, I guess it's recording. Well, my card filled up and I didn't notice, and then when I'd already spot welded this patch in, I didn't have to cut a big square patch like I did for the other side. This one wasn't as rusted, so I just did a round one. But now I gotta cut this dimple out. I bored the hole with a unibit, and so get my headphones on. Yeah, there we go. Relatively round hole. What I used for a pattern is my oil filter wrench for my BMW. Still a little bit of an edge that's kind of rolled down, but that'll hammer and dolly back out straight. That's really all I needed to cut out. I sure like this little air saber. Man, of course it vibrates pretty good, knocking everything off the car on my welding helmet. Well, hopefully my helmet's okay, guys. It is a cheap helmet, but that's all I've got. Oh, I got a interesting story. I got a little more information on where my car came from, or the people involved anyway. I was searching for the guy in Homer years ago, Earl Hensley, which I thought was the guy I tried to buy it from in the 70s. Apparently that's not true. I got a phone call, an unexpected phone call, from a guy I left a message on his phone 3 years ago. And he still had it on his recorder, and he calls me up the other night. Well, he was the guy I was trying to get a hold of who I thought bought the car out from underneath me all those years ago. Come to find out, no, he owned the car at the time. He bought it from Earl Hensley and had it for several years when I started snooping around at it. The car was parked at his parents' house, so I never met him. I only met his parents. And I showed him the pictures I took of the car back then. And he said, yeah, that was in my parents' driveway. And I says, well, I was trying. He says, I heard somebody was looking at the car. And I said, well, that was me. And so we talked for well over an hour, comparing notes and and people we knew and stuff like that. But we'd never met. He informed me that there was an owner before Earl Hensley, last name of Pratt. And I'm trying to see if I can find any information on the Pratts. He knew which street they lived on and everything. And that car had been in that neighborhood for a while. Earl Hensley bought it from the Pratts. Well, the first time he sat in that car was in 1960, and he was like 7 years old. Basically, that's when I was born. So he's known about or been around this car all these years, and he's tried to buy it for a long, long period of time and finally got it in about 1969. And I was starting to look at the car summer like 73, 74. So he really didn't know anything about me, but that I had looked at the car all those years ago, and I finally ended up with a car all the years later. So two guys who had been interested in and been around this car all those years, and he says, well, it sounds like it went to the right person, and so he wants to keep in contact with me and about the car because he's very interested. He had the car for a real long time. He had it for a short period of time, but he tried to get the car for a long time. And so I said, well, you know what? I get this thing running in the next few years or so. We're all going out for a ride. I said, have you ever driven the car? He says, I drove it once. It was wrecked. And he only drove it once. But apparently, I don't know if you remember, you have to look back at my old videos, when I stripped the car down, it had this deep pile red shag carpeting in it. Well, apparently he's to blame for that. He put the deep shag pile in it. And I says, well, I kept a piece for posterity. I'm going to frame it. Yeah, and he was laughing. He says, yeah, he says, that I did that. And so anyway, it was an interesting conversation and one I didn't see coming. And he's not far away from here, so he wants to come by and take a look at what I'm doing, in progress. And, it's a mess right now, but it sewed up. It answered a lot of questions, a lot of unknown and unanswered questions. So it's sounding. He says he thinks the Pratts may have been the original owner, possibly, but that was all he knew. So, but I now know that there's another name involved. So I think we're starting to draw it to a bit of a conclusion, or as far as it can be taken. But, it's more provenance for the car and more for the story of the car. And it's nice to know, exactly, because I was sort of making conjectures on how things might have went, and that Earl Hensley was the original owner and things like that. But it come to find out it's not true. But he knows the car way back even earlier. So anyway, firsthand knowledge anyway, and now I got to add that to the story of the car. So anyway, just more interesting tidbits about it, I guess. Well, I'm going to dolly this out a little bit and cut out another disc of steel, but starting to get some of this, at least things spotted into place. More later.
Too far.
One more. Pretty much do the circle. Ooh, there it is. Yes. Okay. Don't know why I even put my helmet on. Well, there's that one at least spotted in. Needs more hammering and dolly in them, but it's flush all the way around. Yes, it's that little bit spotted in. Or later.